So today we're diving into what is, I think, one of the most personal and urgent documents ever written. This isn't some dry state paper or a corporate memo. No, this is a final letter from a mentor who's basically on death row to his young protege. It's really a last will and testament of courage. So let's unpack this thing.
Right out of the gate, the tone is set. The sender, Paul, doesn't start with a formal title. He calls Timothy his dearly beloved son. This entire message is wrapped in that deep personal bond. You have to understand, this isn't just business. This is family.
And then, just a little bit further in, the stakes become terrifyingly clear. Paul isn't just taking a trip down memory lane. He knows he's about to be executed. The time of my departure is at hand. So every single word from here on out, well, it carries this incredible weight because it's his very last.
Okay, let's just make sure we've got the context straight. Paul, a leader in this new faith movement, is locked up in a Roman prison. He's been through it all: trials, persecutions, and now, here it is, in chains. A lot of his friends have abandoned him, and he's facing the end. This is his final charge to the one person he trusts to carry the torch.
Now this is what I find so incredible. Look at the contrast here. Paul's reality? He's a prisoner. He's in chains. He's been abandoned by so many. But what's his message to Timothy? Is it despair? No way. It's strength. It's not shame, it's boldness. He's telling him to stir up his gift, to fan that flame, even as his own is about to be snuffed out. Just, wow.
So, what's the core emotional command of this letter? When you boil it all down, it's a direct shot at fear. Paul knows Timothy is probably terrified, right? I mean, his mentor is about to be killed, the world is hostile, and Paul just meets that fear head on. And here's the solution he offers. It's a total flip of the script. He says, look, fear is not our default setting. That's not what we were given. Instead, you need to operate from a spirit of power. That's divine strength, of love, that's compassion, and of a sound mind. That means discipline and clarity. This is the antidote to fear.
And Paul makes this super personal. He doesn't just throw out abstract advice. He reminds Timothy of his unfeigned faith, this sincere, genuine belief that's basically in his DNA. He says, hey, remember, this came from your grandmother Lois, and then to your mother Eunice, and now it's in you. He's saying, dude, you come from a long line of courage, leaning to that. Okay, so this is where the letter really starts to build. Paul pivots from this emotional encouragement to these incredibly practical, really tough-minded metaphors. He knows faith isn't just a feeling, it demands discipline. So he gives Timothy instructions fit for a soldier heading into battle. He lays out three powerful analogies. First, be like a soldier. You got to be focused, disciplined, ready to endure hardship, and don't get tangled up in civilian life. Second, be like an athlete. You want to win the prize, you have to play by the rules. No cheating, no shortcuts. And third, be like a farmer. The one who works the hardest is the one who gets to enjoy the harvest first. It's that simple.
And this leads to a crucial point, this call to craftsmanship. Paul tells Timothy to study, to become a skilled worker who handles the word of truth with absolute precision. You know, the idea is that truth isn't some blunt object you swing around. It's something you have to handle carefully, correctly, like a master carpenter making a perfect, clean cut.
But all this work isn't happening in some peaceful workshop. Nope. A huge chunk of this letter is a really stark warning. Paul sees this clear and present danger that Timothy absolutely has to face: the rise of corrupt ideas and corrupt teachers, coming from inside the movement. Paul warns that perilous times will come. So, naturally, the big question is, well, what does that actually look like? How is Timothy supposed to spot this danger when it shows up? Paul doesn't leave him guessing. He gives him a detailed field guide to disaster. And man, he does not hold back. He just unleashes this avalanche of social decay. People will become lovers of their own selves, covetous, proud, traitors. The list just goes on and on. He's painting this really grim picture of a culture that's just collapsing inward on its own selfishness.
But listen, here's the real kicker, the most dangerous part. These people won't necessarily look evil on the outside. Paul says they'll have a form of godliness. They'll go through the motions, they'll talk the talk, they'll look religious. But deep down, they deny the very power that makes any of it real. And Paul's command is simple. It's direct. From such, turn away. Just get away from them.
This slide just draws the battle lines so perfectly. On one side, you've got the false teachers, corrupt minds who resist the truth, and their words, he says, spread like gangrene. Oof. And on the other side, you have the model for Timothy. Follow sound teaching, be gentle, be patient, and use Scripture to help people, to teach and correct them.
It's two completely opposite ways of being.
And now we get to the end, the big finale. After all the instructions, all the warnings, Paul turns the camera back on himself one last time. And he offers up his own life, not as some point of pride, but as the ultimate example for his spiritual son to follow.
This has got to be one of the most famous sign-offs in all of history. It's just this powerful declaration of a life lived all out with zero regrets. He didn't just show up, he fought. He didn't just start the race, he finished it. And through it all, he kept the faith. I mean, this is Paul's mic drop moment.
But that victory, man, it came at a huge personal cost. Just look at this. He names names: Demas, Phygellus, Hermogenes. He says they all abandoned him. But he also makes a point to remember the ones who stood by him: Onesiphorus, who wasn't ashamed of his chains, and Luke, his faithful friend who was there right at the very end. It's such a raw, honest look at the pain of betrayal and the incredible value of loyalty. And after all the epic theology and these grand declarations, the letter ends on this incredibly human note. He asked Timothy to bring him his coat, because he's cold in that prison cell, and to bring his books, but especially the parchments. Think about that. At the very end, this intellectual giant, this spiritual warrior, he just wants his coat and something to read. And that leaves us with this final thought, right? This letter is a masterclass in what it means to leave a legacy. It really forces you to ask yourself, if you knew your time was up, what would you say? What warnings? What encouragements? What simple human requests would you make? Paul's answer was crystal clear. Be fearless, be disciplined, stay true, and please bring my coat.